Hello, and welcome to the Anatomy and Physiology Bone Room at St. Louis Community College on the Forest Park campus. So I thought I'd go into how to study for your anatomy and physiology class, especially using the bone room as an important tool to help you get through your class and get an A. We are located in the lower level of the library on the Forest Park campus in room 105, but just go down to the lower level and down the hall and you'll see the signs pointing you toward the bone room. Now there are four universal learning methods that I call the tentpole approach. By tent pole approach, what I mean is that if you think about putting up a tent or putting a canvas over four tent poles, those tent poles are going to prop up your tent or your canvas. So these tent poles are tools that you can use in your study techniques that will prop up all the rest of your learning for anatomy and physiology. We have definitions, demonstrations, examples, and organization. Now, definitions, this is so important, and I can't stress this enough. This is the very basic portion of learning. You must look up all the words that you don't know when you're going through your text and through your notes, your lecture notes. Do not go past the word that you don't know and just try to figure out what it means by the sentence you're reading it in. Look it up and actually create your own glossary in the back of your notebook. Every time you go past a word you don't know, write that word and its definition in the back of your notebook. So you'll create a little glossary of terms. So the next time you read past that word, if you can't remember what it is, you'll know how to look it up and you'll know exactly where it's at. So you won't have to Google it every time. Now when you look up the words, you want to break apart each word, especially in anatomy terms. You want to break apart the word into the prefix, root, and the suffix. Now a lot of times when you're dealing with anatomy and physiology terms, these words are going to be from Latin derivatives or Greek. So you break it up into the prefix, the root word, and the suffix, and you define each of those. You define the prefix, you define the root word, and you define the suffix. And putting those together, you'll be able to get a much better understanding of what that term is actually talking about. Now, as I said before, don't try to guess what it means by the context. You are the student here and you are paying good money to learn technical information. And so it's not going to be a good use of your money if you just try to figure out what the word means by what you're reading, the sentence you're reading it in. You really want to dig in and you want to figure out what the word actually means, because especially in biology and in medical sciences, the word might mean something in the English language, but in the technical language it might mean something specific. So you want to find out exactly what that term means. Now the next tentpole is called demonstration, and this just means that you want to project this concept or these terms into a 3D space, into 3 dimensions, using either pictures, that's 2 dimensions, you can draw a picture, or using models, taking apart scientific models and putting them back together so you get a better understanding of where each anatomical structure is located. You want to go online, use computer software programs that offer 3D generated models, or you can even play a game with your fellow classmates labeling different structures on anatomical models and trying to guess what those words are. Here's an example of a demonstration of just by drawing a picture. Now this is a math problem. This isn't something you're going to run into in anatomy, but still with sciences you're going to have to be able to do math problems, and especially word problems. So as you can see here, the word problem is 2 cars are driving toward each other on a street with an initial distance 1.5 miles. A dog is running between them. 2 cars drive at 4 miles per hour and 6 miles per hour. Blah, blah, blah. You can really get turned around in reading these word problems. So what the person did here was draw a picture underneath the word problem, labeling everything, how fast each car was going, how fast the dog was going, the distance between them. And by drawing this out and labeling each aspect of the picture, you really get a much better idea of what's going on, so you can solve the problem better. Now, Anatomy TV is something we offer through St. Louis Community College. You can find this under the Libraries section on Blackboard, under Articles and Databases. Also, in the Bone Room, we have a big television screen, and we have computer access where you can access Anatomy TV. Anatomy TV provides three-dimensional models for different body parts. You can go in, you can click on a body part, and it will tell you the physiology of it. You can turn things around and look at them in 3 dimensions. You can look behind them, you can look in front of them. Here's a screenshot from our Anatomy TV. As you can see, this one is of the head, of the muscles of the head, but I could go in there and click on one of those muscles and remove it, and then see the structures underneath that muscle also. And then I can click that on, and it'll pull up an entire screen with the physiology explaining everything in those structures. So it's very cool to check out. It's called Anatomy TV, and don't forget to ask about it when you come into the Bone Room. Now, there's a lot of models, and this is what everybody's been waiting for. The Bone Room is especially useful for the models. We provide the same models that you study in class, so the same models you look at in the Bone Room are going to be the same models you're going to be tested on in class. So that's very helpful to have. We have several different kinds of models. We have skeletons. We have the skeletons that are the full skeleton models, but we also have the full-scale disarticulated bones. Disarticulated just means disconnected into pieces. So we have several sets of skeletons, disarticulated skeletons, where it's just a suitcase full of the bones, so you can go through each individual bone and identify it, and identify the structures on each bone. We also have the torso man models, which are really useful for the removable organs, and you can also see, since it's a cutaway of a torso, you can see the different layers of skin and adipose tissue and the ribs. And also we have, this goes through the entire GI system that you can study, and it shows some of the bronchioles entering the lungs. The special senses models, this picture is of the eyeball that we have. We also have for ears, we have the nervous system, we have all of the organ systems, the circulatory system. We have all of the models that you can take apart. You can take apart the ligaments, the muscles, the individual structures of each of the special senses. You can take apart the entire eyeball. You can take apart all the bones of the ear, which are, by the way, have the smallest bones in the human body, the malleus, incus, and stapes. You can take that apart. You can disassemble and reassemble them, and we also have the keys to the models, so you can look up each individual section and identify each structure accordingly. We do have muscles. This is a huge deal for your anatomy and physiology class. This is when we end up getting the most students coming in to study the muscles, because there's no possible way that you could study the muscles and memorize all of these without seeing the actual models of the muscles in front of you, and by practicing again and again, going over identifying each. As you can see, we have many various anatomy models. In addition to the ones I just mentioned, we have kidneys, we have reproductive systems, The arms that you're seeing in the back have the muscle structures as well as the nervous system through it. We have a small muscle man. We have the urinary tract system. We have all of the systems. And as you can see, we're very friendly. Our friendly skeletons here are welcoming you to the bone room. Here are some more various models that we have. You've seen this eyeball. We have these skulls. We have brains with the cranial nerves labeled. We have sections of bone. We have sections of the digestive tract, so you can identify microscopic structures that are involved in anatomy and physiology. And here's another tent pole for learning, which is called examples. And you really need to be able to not only memorize your anatomy, not only memorize the terminology and physiology, but you need to be able to apply these concepts in real world situations, because when you take the exams in your anatomy and physiology classes, these exam questions are going to challenge you to apply your knowledge of anatomy and put it to use and actually answer, draw conclusions and answer questions regarding the physiology and how the organ systems work together. So in order to do that, you have to repeat. You go over your worksheets from class, your previous quizzes from class. You go over your questions from the review sections of the book. We have tutorial videos that we can recommend to you in the Bone Room. We also offer practice quizzes, not necessarily from any quizzes of your class, just isolated, just general quizzes on anatomy and physiology in whatever specific organ system you happen to be studying. And that actually gives the students a lot of practice going in and just trying to answer different questions. Note cards are something really good you want to create so you can memorize things, but even better is the app Quizlet. It's a free app, and you can enter in note cards in Quizlet and study them. You can also make up little quizzes for yourself, and I also offer my own Quizlets that I wrote out for the anatomy and physiology classes, which I give you my username so you can locate those quizzes and go through those. Students really have a good time. They said that it's very helpful to go through the Quizlets that I've created for anatomy and physiology, and you can just download the app on your phone for free when you're at work or you have a minute, you're standing in line somewhere. Just go through and quiz yourself just for a couple of minutes at a time, and just the repetition of constantly quizzing yourself just for a couple of minutes at a time over the course of a week is really going to strengthen your learning and your vocabulary. And again, or most importantly, last but not least, is group study. You really want to get together in your groups. Any of your teachers can tell you that they know that the student's going to get A's when they see them getting together and studying with their other classmates. That's a surefire way to improve your grade, because you're going to be sitting with other people who could say something that you wouldn't have thought of yourself, and it'll expand your understanding of the material. Here in the Bone Room, we have tons of reference materials. We do have old editions of textbooks. As I had said before, we have Quizlets that are created for A&P, in addition to whatever Quizlets you want to create yourself. I can recommend tutorial videos for you. We have practice quizzes. If you're going into the nursing program, you're going to want to study for the TEAS test, which is the entrance exam for the nursing school, and we do have practice quizzes for the TEAS test down in the Bone Room. Just ask your tutor when you get down there if you want to go through the TEAS practice TEAS tests. We have computer access where you can find our anatomy TV, and we have all sorts of different kinds of helpful handouts, vocabulary, muscle direction, and most importantly, it's a very positive environment. Those of you who come down to the Bone Room on a regular basis, we know that those are the people who are going to get A's, and we end up getting to know each other on a first name basis by the end of the semester, and we all kind of get along like family. By the end of the semester, we're very close. Group study is absolutely welcome in the bone room. As you can see, here's a picture of just some of our group study tables. You don't have to come in and be silent and study. This is not a silent study classroom, although we are in the library, and in the main library rooms, you want to be quiet. We are separated. We're downstairs and we're a room to ourselves, so you can ask questions, you can talk to your classmates, you can meet there for group study. You don't have to be silent and studying. You can watch videos, and you can call a tutor over any time to help you. We're there whenever you need us. Now, organization is the fourth tent pole out of the four for study techniques, and organization is very important because this is what fits all the information together. All the information that you've been taking in, you've been studying for this unit. How does all this information fit together? It's not enough to just memorize terms and definitions and anatomy. You have to know how everything is organized. And in any kind of biological sciences or any allied health program, one of the most important things in the subject is organization. How are things organized? If you go into biology or microbiology, half of the entire class is how are these bacteria organized in different classes and subsections. And that's exactly how you want to look at anatomy and physiology. How does this information fit together, and how should you organize your notes so you can best understand it? You want to use flowcharts, outlines, concept maps, or summaries to organize the facts into a logical format. Now here's an example of a flowchart. This is a no frills, no computer fun graphics technique. This is just very basic. It's just an anatomical term with an arrow, and then another anatomical term. This is an example of a flowchart for blood circulation in the human heart. So we start with the superior and inferior vena cava, and then the blood goes into the right atrium, and then the blood goes through the tricuspid atrioventricular valve, and then the blood goes into the right ventricle. Now, as you can see, I also color-coded this. The black are the anatomical structures that the blood flows into. The blue are the valves that the blood flows through to get into the next anatomical structure. So you can see the blue are the valves that the blood will flow through to get into the right ventricle or the pulmonary trunk or the pulmonary arteries. And then from the respiratory system, it starts in the pulmonary veins, goes into the left atrium, through the bicuspid valve, into the left ventricle, through the aortic valve, into the aorta, into the systemic circulatory system. So see, this is very simple. You just put the anatomy and then an arrow, and then the next anatomy structure that the blood flows into. And organizing the information like this will definitely help you understand the flow of the blood, or the flow of information in this physiology concept. Now here's the same thing, but this is in an outline form. This is less for if you need to understand the flow through the heart, and more for if you just want to know the anatomy of the heart. Not the motion through the heart, but just the anatomical structures of the heart. Then you'll want to do an outline. As you can see, number one is the four chambers in the heart, and then we have the left, right atrium, the left and right ventricle. And then we have Roman numeral 2 is talking about the types of valves in the heart. And so as you can see, this outline is going to be completely different than the flow chart that we had before, but it's the same information. So see, you can organize this information in many different ways. It's up to you to pick what way or ways you need to organize this in your notes so you can fully understand it. And here's a picture of a concept map. This one specifically is about type 2 diabetes, but we don't have to get into reading all of this. I just wanted you to remember this from middle school or high school. You have the main topic is at the top, and then you have these four sub-main headers that branch off of that. It's almost like a tree or a family tree. and then the details branch off of that. So the more detailed you get, the more it branches away from the center topic. Now, tutoring is the other main thing why people come down to the bone room. We have wonderful tutors down there in the bone room, and I try to make sure that there's a tutor at least for a few hours every day that we are open, Monday through Saturday. The schedules are going to change weekly. We try to keep them really similar, but they might have different changes in them. So you want to check weekly in the bone room for the new tutor schedule. But we're going to try to keep them as similar as possible from week to week. But you do want to check to see if there are any changes, or just so you can plan accordingly if you want to come in and see a specific tutor. There's no appointment necessary. You can just walk in whenever a tutor is available. We'd be happy to help you. Now, if a tutor is not available or a tutor is not scheduled to work, you are still welcome to come into the bone room and study yourself, or come in with a group and study with your group anytime during the library hours. Just help yourself. Please make sure that the models and books do not leave the bone room. Thank you very much. And again, the Quizlet quizzes are under the ID SRUSAN2. Those are Quizlets for anatomy and physiology. Also, you can check out more of my tutorials for math, science, biology, and for how to tutor other peers and peer tutoring at the channel on YouTube called SRUSAN2 St. Louis Community College. And don't forget to come see me in the bone room at Forest Park. We're at the lower level of the library in room L105.